are. The other thing I said is government sites. Medscape.com, medscape.com is an excellent page, and it's got good, reliable information. Also go to clinicaltrials.gov. There's a listing for all of the registered clinical trials, the criteria for entrance into it. But when you are thinking of a clinical trial, make sure you take the information back to your oncologist and discuss it, and make sure that your doctor believes it makes sense for you to do. Let him explain some of the upsides and downsides. So that's important. Be prepared for unexpected emergencies. I always recommend that someone has a medical alert card in their pocket. If you don't want to pay the money for the company, you can make one of your own. I actually type out my medical history, my emergency contact information, the medications that I take, and the surgeries that I've had, and I shrink it down. I use Word, the program. I shrink it down so that the whole thing fits on two sides of a business card. I then cut it out, take a business card and tape it to my business card, so I have a pocket-sized business card-sized emergency medical alert in my pocket. I think it's also important to remember being diagnosed with cancer is not a punishment. You're not being punished for something you did in this life, in a last life, whatever you believe. Cancer is a disease, just like a cold and a flu. It's just a tad more serious. It's not your responsibility, it's not your fault, and you're not an evil person because you have had cancer. But also remember, having cancer does not end your life. I was diagnosed with cancer almost 12 years ago, with prostate cancer. My earliest cancer, which was thyroid cancer, was 24 years. I am feeling today as healthy and as happy as I was prior to my first cancer diagnosis. I remember every day that I'm alive, and that I have happiness and joy and goodness in my life, and to me that's really what's important. I try to deal with my life a little differently. I remember that I'm alive, so I try to find ways to live my life. I don't fight with things that don't work in my life. I don't want to struggle with things. I find something that does work for me, and that's what I do. I didn't choose to have cancer, but I do, and that's the end of it. I have a goal that I try to work on every day. I try to stay in the present, and I even go into the future, because I believe that I have a future, and I think having cancer does not mean that you don't have a future. I listen to my body. I tune into what it's telling me. I make every attempt I can to eliminate stress from my life. I think stress is bad for us whether you have cancer or not, but I think having cancer makes stress even more dangerous. You find positives in your diagnosis. In my case, having been diagnosed with metastatic prostate cancer has allowed me to go on and work with many men who have prostate cancer to try to help them work through the issue. So for me, it's given me a whole new passion, and that's a positive in my diagnosis. I also remember that I always have choices, and I have made the very distinct choice to always be positive. When I first was diagnosed with metastatic disease, I was very depressed. I was very angry, and I realized that I did not want to spend the remainder of my life being depressed and being angry. So I made a very conscious decision to be happy and to be positive. And once I made that decision, I have had a fantastic life. But it has to be a positive and conscious decision. If I have any negative thoughts, I interrupt them by thinking about something positive. It really does help. And as I mentioned earlier, I never look back. I never look back and look back at the issue I shared with you earlier about not having been on top of my PSA tests. That's what happened. I took a positive. I learned something from it. I am now an advocate for myself. I am an empowered patient because I learned that. So my looking back brings me a positive, and I look forward and I use what I've learned to make a better life going forward. Could feel a little depressed today, but I decide that tomorrow I'm just not going to feel that way. And I make the best of whatever the issue is, and I move on, because quite frankly, whatever it is, it's rarely that particularly important that it's going to matter. So I live today for today. I think it's important to surround yourself with positive, loving people. That's really important. Kind of wrap yourself in a blanket of people who feel good about you and love you. I always try to be honest with my feelings when I can. Sometimes, if I'm feeling a little bad, I try to say that out loud, and that helps me understand and put it in perspective. And then I consciously decide to move on and let those feelings go behind us. There are things in this world that I can't do, but there are things in this world that I can do, and so I do them. You can consider doing advocacy and education. You can consider concentrating on your family, your children, your grandchildren. It doesn't matter what it is, but find something to become important. If you're if you're sick of people calling you and asking you how you're feeling, set up a web page where you can every few days write something. There's an organization called Caring Bridge that will give you a free web page where you can report it. And this is particularly good when you're undergoing treatment, if you're having surgery or radiation, and people who mean well call and you kind of get sick of saying the same thing again and again. This is a way for you to be able to communicate but not feel burdened by people trying to be good. Exercise is vital. 30 minutes minimum each and every day. Walk a lot. I wasn't walking, so my family went out and bought me a dog. My dog is probably the best walked dog in my neighborhood, and I get to walk a lot, so it's great. This is just the beginning of how to become an empowered patient. You can develop your own things, or you can contact me at Joel, Joel, at Malecare, MALECARE.org, and I'll be glad to share other ideas or perhaps put you back on the right track.